And you have it easy because we're both Barbara. That's
Yeah,
only
you're
one name to remember.
Barbara, and you were, remind me your name?
Linda.
Linda. You know, too many names, too many faces, you know, and as I teach many people,
It's a lot.
it's, well, you are a teacher also, so
Yes.
you know what the problem of
Right,
names
exactly.
is.
What's the
you know.
saying? A rose by any other name would smell as
It's
sweet.
still
Barbara,
a rose,
do you
yeah,
want? Do you want a
exactly.
pillow?
Who
Oh, I'm
cares?
sitting on one, thank you.
Yeah, who cares?
Have you gotten to do anything, you know, touristy or fun while you're here, or you're
We
just
talked about that
working,
last
working,
week.
working?
Yeah,
No.
working. We have not been touristy at all. I mean, we were planning to go to New York City this Friday,
Uh-huh.
and we have to.
Could you just not right?
No, I thought someone was.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we had to. And we have to go to see some properties.
Did you go to the wine bar?
Available. So I mean,
You're looking for properties for...
You moving here?
yeah,
Really?
yeah, really. Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
how
So you're
exciting.
looking for a place to rent?
No, we are looking for a place to buy
Wow.
a property.
Are you gonna open up your own school and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. A big property where we can start teaching properly.
Wow.
So we were planning to go to New York, but it has been changed to go and see some properties. One of them could be feasible, although it's not easy. It's not easy because, you know, there are lots of
Laws.
Yeah.
lots of laws, and you can do this, but you cannot do that, but you cannot, you know, lots of rules and regulations with which I am not
Familiar.
acquainted,
Right, right.
because this is not, I'm acquainted to the rules and laws and regulations in Spain, but they are different,
Right.
obviously. So anyhow, no found yet.
You haven't found anything
I'm sorry, I missed the class the other day. I had vertigo. I was really sick, and I still don't feel so well. I don't know how long I can stay today,
Good.
just because I'm still a little out of
there. A
it.
little dizzy.
Vertigo is a
But-
problem with your inner ear. It makes you dizzy. So when
Ah,
I woke
okay.
up, I looked at the ceiling, and it was going like this.
Okay, so you have a problem there.
Right. So I'm still a little dizzy.
You know, have you tried the Epley maneuver?
I did actually. A friend of mine helped me with that.
Yeah,
but
you
she
can't do
said,
it by yourself.
yeah. So it helped, but I'm still kind of woozy.
You tried a couple of times, but with a watch, did your friend use a watch?
Yeah, we had a timer. Mm-hmm.
And did what I found helped is to have the friend watch the video, so they know exactly what they're supposed to do.
She knew what she was doing because she's
Okay.
had it for 30 years, off and on.
Okay.
So
Sometimes it takes a couple of times before it really helps.
Okay,
it's
look,
a
what
lot
I
better.
will be
But
doing,
anyway, I'm sorry if I don't.
I will be doing you a healing now. That might help.
Great.
So you need to put yourself in a more easy for me to use chair, like that one, for example.
Okay.
Oh, the white one?
No, yeah,
No,
right,
right
that one,
You
that one.
want me to
Someone
sit
I
in
can
front?
put myself in your back, because I will be touching you several points.
Really? I'm glad I said something. Okay. Want me to sit here?
Take your cushion, put yourself comfortable,
Oh, okay.
all the things. No, but I was thinking of the cushion for your feet. You want to put your feet comfortable
You should just
also.
sit on it.
Well, if
it's
you want
just-
to put a cushion also there, you can do
Perfect.
both.
I'll be okay for a little while.
You'll be okay there? Put a cushion if you think you need, you know, put yourself as comfortable
This chair's
as you
hard.
think you require. Imagine you were a cat. Have you seen cats when they decide they are going to put themselves in some place? They
Uh-huh.
really study the situation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make this such a big scene.
No, don't worry, it's not a scene. We like cats.
We like cats. And therefore we like you.
Good, you are good there? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Make yourself completely sure. Cats don't say yes immediately. They really look. They turn round and round several times before they are in agreement with that. Okay, so we are going to start with a meditation. We will start with pranayamas, 4, 16, 8, like when you do the Tratak. So, in 4 times you breathe in, you retain, count at 16, you breathe out, count at 8. It's important, the most important part is breathing out. It has to be uniform, breathing out. Count at the speed that looks comfortable to you so that you can do it comfortably. But try to count at the same speed in all the measures so that the proportion is kept. Counting is important, it's part of the technique, so don't miss the counting. We will do 6 pranayamas, 4, 16, 8, and then we will gently introduce the prep mantra, the preparatory mantra. You remember it? Guru Rachananda. Shall I write it? No, not necessarily. Yeah, I write it. Do I write it or not?
Do you mind? Yeah.
Yeah, no. If by any chance you forget, you can always open your eyes and read it.
Thank you.
Here.
It's right here.
It's already written, I don't need to write. So, you introduce gently the mantra. You use, your object of attention will be the sound of your inner voice repeating the mantra. Mira a ver quién es, Benito, cógelo. Sorry, but I have my daughter in the hospital, you know. Have to
No
do that.
tengo ni idea.
¿Eh?
802.
¿Cómo?
Más 1-802-349-2400. ¿Será de una casa?
Será a lo mejor, ya está.
Frightening to be so far away.
What?
Frightening to be so far away. That's what he's saying.
Yes, we are. Yes, this morning if you go to YouTube, you will see. And if you go to está transmitiendo, si ya it's broadcasting live now. Are you in the website?
He's on the phone. You're good. You can sneak in and won't even know you're late.
Can you just
Yeah.
The word doesn't match really. Take care of some of your chairs.
You're good. You're good. You're good. What kind of a dog do you have?
He's a Gordon Setter. Kind of a
Gordon said.
nobody's ever heard. I never heard of it either. He's a rescue, so he has long hair like a setter.
I was going to say, well, yeah, like an Irish setter.
Yeah, Irish English setter. Yeah, they all
Yeah,
kind of have
yeah.
the long hair. And
What color hair?
he's mostly black and some brown and a little bit of white. But
Right beside.
he's about 65 pounds. So he's for me a medium dog.
Yeah.
He's the smallest dog I ever had.
Really? Oh my
Do you have a
goodness.
dog?
Oh, always have.
Sorry for the
Just have it
interruption.
right now. Yeah, I love them. Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything is okay. It was not my daughter in any case. It was another bit. So we will wait for Barbara. No, Barbara.
Jenny?
Barbara.
Barbara.
Barbara, yeah.
John.
Joan. Joan.
We'll answer to anything.
Except 4-letter words.
So I think I was in the repeating mentally the mantra and bringing your attention to the sound of your voice. The sound of your voice inside your head is associated with the feeling of being an I, because when your voice is thinking, it is, you naturally identify yourself with that voice, with that I, right? So you just follow the sound of your voice, because it will change, you know, the sound of your voice will change. And because you can speak, you know, more like this, more, or you can speak more angry, or you can speak in different tones that express different things, and if you let yourself be guided by the sound of your voice, repeating the mantra, you will see that you kind of go deep into your mind little by little. And you use that object as the object of your attention. If you remember this video I did put you of Thomas Keating, the ones that saw the video, okay, well, what it means is that you use that the sound of your voice as a symbol of that real self which is within you, or of God, if you know you can use that as a symbol of God, you know, that depends on your belief system, different belief system. At the end of the day, is the self, is the real self, is the life that beats within you. So you just use that and as your object, and like in any other meditation based on putting your attention in an object, you just very gently, very softly, with no effort, very much like when you look at a fireplace, that you just put your attention in the object and let everything go. So you put your attention in the object of the sound of your voice, which is interesting enough as it is a fireplace. Once you put the attention in that sound, and you just let everything go. And while we are doing the meditation, I will go behind you, so don't get scared. And I will touch several points of your head, mainly. Okay? Any sensations that you perceive or whatever, you just let go. It's just like another thought. So don't hold into anything. Just let go of everything.
Why are you going to do that?
Hmm?
Why are you going to do that?
Why I'm
She
doing
has
that?
some pain.
Oh, I said, why are you going to touch
vertigo.
head? Oh, just you?
her, just
Oh,
her.
I think meant everyone. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no,
I
just her
misunderstood.
because she has a problem.
Oh, I was like, oh, I misunderstood. Sorry.
No.
I have a pain in my back if you want to give me a massage.
No, well, but you know, these subtle things, this technique with his, you know, it balances up the energies, works very well. So, you know, it may help, it might help, you will tell me afterwards. So we start now, we start with the pranayamas, and we do 6 pranayamas. When we finish the 6 pranayamas, we continue straight with the meditation, with the prep. So we finish the last pranayama, and very gently, very softly, very cautiously, we introduce the repetition of the mantra, putting our attention in listening our voice, repeating the mantra, and you continue like this till I chant the Om Shanti that will end the meditation. slowly, allowing yourself at least a minute or two. Little by little, you get out of the meditation. Namaste. Nice. Feel more relaxed? Good. Feel okay?
It feels a little clearer.
Good. So you just stay in that relaxation. There's no hurry. We don't need to go anywhere else. I will start reviewing a little bit the techniques that you did. So we start with you, Kalina.
Okay.
Good.
I have a little bit misunderstanding of the good morning there. I can't, my mind doesn't work that way.
Good. Explain me.
I don't understand, I'm like confused. My mind is just, doesn't even think like what I have to think about
No, you
about
don't.
the day.
You don't have to think anything.
Uh-huh.
Basically, it's becoming conscious of one thing, one simple phenomena. The simple phenomena that we become conscious of is the following. Now, when we wake up in the mornings, two things happen. You are sleeping, i.e. you are not aware of your environment, right? You are not in charge. When you are sleeping, you are not in charge. Somehow you are not there. In fact, when you are there, you don't sleep well. You really sleep well if you are really not there, no? So somehow we can assume that when we go to sleep, although we are still there, we are not in charge. You know, we go to sleep, nature is in charge. And then something wakes up in the morning, which is the I that you identify with, Galina. And then suddenly Galina is in charge, because during the night you were not in charge. That's clear. That's a simple phenomenon. Okay, so you wake up. When we wake up, all human beings, what we do is we project in the screen of our minds our concept of ourselves, of the world, our concept of our circumstances, because we project in the screen of our mind all what we think about ourselves, or what we want, or what we tell ourselves about ourselves, or what we tell ourselves about life, the memory we have of our circumstances, which includes the interpretation we give to our circumstances, right? That's clear, that's another phenomenon. But normally what we don't realize, we concentrate a lot on this thing that we project in the screen of our mind. So we project that And without saying it, these memories that without helping it, we project into the future. These memories is what we consider our reality, right? Well, the only thing we do when we say good morning day is that we switch our attention to what is our actuality. And our actuality is that we have a day to live. That's all. I mean, you can have any opinion you want to have about that day, but that day will come to you. You will be 16 hours in charge, between quotations, but at least you experience yourself as being in charge, and you will have 16 hours to act, to do things, to think, because you will be thinking things during 16 hours, and to feel, because you will be feeling things during 16 hours. Also, another thing is very, very clear and very easy to understand. There is nothing you can do for your life or for the life of those that you love, but what you can do in that day. So in reality, your life is played and happens during the day you have to live, not in your mind with all those thoughts that nobody knows, nobody cares, you know, and that they are just thoughts, not the reality. Reality in reality is the actuality you have to live in that day. So if you realize this from the moment you wake up in the morning and you tell to yourself, Galina, whatever you think about yourself and life and your circumstances, it's only today. It's only today that you can do something about it. So let's start having a nice shower in front of God, saying good morning to the day I have to live, smiling to the day I have to live, just letting that my eyes, you know, can see the beauty around me, because there is always beauty around you. You know, the light of the day coming through the windows, or the warm shower that you can have, you name it, the warmth in the house, and it's cold outside. So, you know, you put yourself in a position of good morning day, instead of waking up and say, oh fuck, another day, which we also do. So what you do is you simply discipline yourself to realize that your opinions about the day you have to live, your opinions about your life, your opinions about your circumstances, and your actuality is only the real one, the day you have to live. Because the days you have lived already are memories in your mind, one, certain memories in my mind, certain other in Barbara's mind, certain other, and they don't match. So the past, where is the past? Not even in the mind, there is no common past. Past does not exist. Tomorrow, if you wake up tomorrow, because you never know what can happen during this day, tomorrow will be another day. So really your life is played, the cards of your life, the play of your life is played the day you have to live. And if you put your attention in the day you have to live, you put your attention in the only place you can do something for your life, for the life of your loved ones, for you name it. It's the only place you have. So it's your garden, it's your play garden.
Thank you.
It's so you say good morning day because you know it's a play garden where you are going to play today. I'm speaking metaphorically, of course, but you know, And it's an attitude. And then when the mind starts thinking, as we think, as the mind chatter is normally directed to people that we have in our imagination. Like you mind chatter, directing your mind chatter to your mother, or to your friend, or to your father, or you name it, to whatever. You want to practice whatever identity you want to project. So in these first hours of the morning, you direct your mind chatter to God in your own way, and you don't need to believe in God. Imagine you were speaking with an omniscient mind, omnipresent mind, omnipotent mind. It's just whatever you imagine that mind to be, you can speak with that mind. You have to realize that when you speak with your mother in your mind, is an imagined mother. It's not the real mother. And the same thing with whomever you speak. So, taking into consideration that you are projecting mothers or friends or bosses or colleagues or acquaintances or friends, well, just, to practice, to try, we want to be flexible with thought. These hours in the mornings, direct your mind chatter to God. Tell Him what's going on with you. You will chat less because, when you chat with your mother or with your friend, you will tend to lie or manipulate or project you as what you are not. So, you will chat less, and it will be a better mirror for you. It's a way to look at yourself honestly in the mirror. It's a little trick that we do to the mind. You understand what I'm trying to say?
But chat like in loud or chat in my mind?
No, in your mind. Your mind is chattering all the time. You are having the shower, and when you find yourself chattering in your mind with your friend, whatever you were telling your friend, try and tell it to God. Normally you will tell nothing because you were telling a lie to your friend or whatever the case might be. So, you normally stop the chatter, but if there is something going on and you have doubts about this or about that, instead of chattering with your friend, what you are is protecting your individuality, tell that to God. In other words, dedicate the first moments of the day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you do your first meditation, to this open presence practice, to be in the presence of God. Think in front of God, brush your teeth in front of God, have a shower in front of God, which means giving everything in that action, imagine God is looking at you, whatever concept you may have of God. And do that because you are preparing yourself to live the only day you have to live. Think about that what wakes up in the morning dies that day when you go to sleep. Because what woke up today will never wake up again. When you were 14, you woke up and in the screen of your mind there were your friends in the school and this group of people and the bully and the popular and your where is it? When you woke up at your 20s, the boyfriend, the this, the that. When you woke up at your 30s, the profession, the economy, establishing myself, and so on and so forth. And there is one day that you will wake up and will be the last day. Because that day will be the last one. And everybody wakes up the last day. And you will wake up to another completely different reality. So, what wakes up every morning dies every night. You think it's permanent, but it's not. It's changing all the time. So the only thing real, truly real, that you have is your actuality. And in your actuality is in the only place you can do something, even for these memories you are so fond of, because you can create good memories. And so if you think this is something and that you have to protect it in any way or form, this is the only way you can protect it, creating good memories instead of bad memories today. So we focus on the day we have to live, because it's the only place we can do something about our lives. And it's the concept of learning to be here and now, which is, you know, using a measurement that we all understand, because it's kind of one day, the life of one day, since you wake up in the morning till you go to bed and go to sleep in the night. And during your sleep state, the mechanisms of the mind change, and they change according to the experiences of the day. You know, from one day to another you don't see it change, but it changes. What wakes up the next day is different, and as soon as you compare in time, you can appreciate the difference. You know, like when you see a boy when he was 8 months, and then you come back a year again and he is 1 year and 8 months. So you see the change, but from 8 months and 8 months on one day you don't see the change, but it's changing. So same thing with the mind system. So basically, instead of believing that your reality is that, because that reality, if it exists, it lasts one day. The reality to which you will wake up the last day of your life, promise, will be completely different. So, you know, you bring your attention to the day you have to live and you say, good morning day. That's the essence of that practice. More questions of difficulty that you may have had with the techniques, the Tratak or the mantra?
No, I didn't have any, like I did in the morning Trataks and the mantra in the evening.
And everything
during
went
the
well?
day I was doing the karma.
Yeah, the karma activity.
Karma, but only the morning is just was hard to that I didn't understand that concept of good morning.
Well, it's just that, you know, it's what I have just explained. It helped you, the explanation? Good. So you are Joan.
Yes.
So you tell me, did you do your practices?
Like I had said, I had started this a little while ago in
Right.
terms of the morning, getting up and doing the candle, and so that's good. But something that changed for me a little bit, because I was doing that, getting up in the morning. I just tend to be a spiritual person, so I would pray anyhow to start my day. I mean, but something you said threw me off a little bit. The part about having an intention, a petition at the end. Like, remember you said to have
Yeah,
like a
in
little,
the prayer,
Right.
right.
and then to end with the petition. Somehow that threw me.
In what sense?
I'm not really sure. I think because it made it hard for me to put into words, even mentally, like what I wanted to petition for.
Right. Well, the petition is basically when you do a prayer, you normally ask for something. You know, Our Father. Well, this is a Christian prayer, but Our Father, Thou. I don't know all the words in English, but give me my daily bread. You know, you're asking for things. Take my sins away. You know, bring me from darkness to light. You know, all prayers you ask for something. You know, and everybody prays. Because everybody asks for the love of your beloved, or to win the lottery ticket, or you name it. Everybody prays, somehow. Sometimes in our life, the prayer is not something that we need to do like every day, but sometimes in our life, because you can wake up gratefully and nice, and then you just sit, and you are grateful naturally, and your mind is at peace or at ease, and you just do your pranayamas and close your, close your eyes, do your pranayamas, and then do your tratak and do the candle practice. But some days you might wake up with worries, with problems, with turmoil in your mind. You are confused about something, you might feel frustrated, you might think that you need something and you don't seem to achieve it, whatever could be there, And at those times, that those thoughts are there, persisting there, so you wake up in the morning and you are in the shower and these thoughts are constantly coming out, and then you put these thoughts to God while you are in the shower and this and that, but they don't come at ease, and you still have that, and then you start with a prayer. And then you sit down, you close your eyes, and speaking slowly, listening to the voice of your inner voice while you speak mentally, the sound of your voice like what we do with the mantra, and feeling what you feel when you listen your voice speaking what it speaks. You just put in 3-4 sentences, try to put in 3-4 sentences to God what's going on. Say you are going through a turmoil in your marriage, and you are, you cannot stop thinking, should I divorce, should I not divorce, should I this, should I that, you are confused, and you cannot take that thought away of your mind. It could be this, or it could be any other thing. And then, well, you try to put that problem to God and explain him, I'm fed up of George, or whatever his name could be. And I'm fed up, and you try to explain to God, because if you are fed up for the way he dresses, when you try to explain this to God, it looks stupid, even for you. So it serves you to, kind of distinguish between hay and grain, and get the important thing about it. And as you have been doing that practice since you woke up, by the time you sit down, you have already discriminated a lot of hay from grain, and probably you will have already the main issues that are affecting you at that very moment. So in the act of saying them slowly, listening to your voice, feeling what you feel when you listen your inner voice saying what it says, you are looking yourself at the mirror, you are kind of looking yourself from a different place, because you are observing yourself, you are observing your voice. So there is something else within you that is looking at the situation but is not the situation. And that thing within you that is looking at the situation and is not the situation is the very same God you are praying to in reality, because it's the same thing. The observer is the real doer, is consciousness within you. That is what you would call the kingdom of heaven within you. That is what you would call the divinity within you. So what you are doing is in fact putting yourself in the mirror of divinity, which is none other but you. But it serves you to be honest with yourself, because one of the main problems that we have as human beings is that we lie ourselves constantly, permanently, since we were little kids. I don't know if you know this, but children start lying when they are 3 years old. That's when they start. Then when you become a teenager, you lie as if it was going to come out of fashion, literally. I mean, you remember when you were teenagers? Just make memory of me. And on those foundations you have built your identity. Identity is built on lies. So an identity is what you project in every morning and what you want to protect and what inherits the instinctive animal instincts of survival and perpetuation. So that idea of yourself that you have created built on lies wants to survive and perpetuate at all means. And that's why the human animal is the most beastly you say, of all animals. There is nothing so beastly and aggressive and, really fearful animal than the little ego. We call it little, but the ancient people called it the devil. Because, it's the one that's lying all the time and torturing you eternally, day after day, night after night. So, when you wake up, really, you simply, when you pray, when you wake up, you recognize this, you concentrate in the day, whatever the worries of this little eye, you have to treat this little eye like gently. You don't want to be rough with him because he gets rougher. I teach meditation in prisons, and you don't shout the prisoners, because then they shout even more. So you just, if they speak louder, you speak more softly. And they speak more louder, and more softly. And finally you make them speak softly. So you have to treat these little eyes softly. So all this process of waking up and speaking with God about all these problems brings you to the chair where you are going to do the prayer with this little eye and its problems that morning. And some mornings you don't have problems, so this is not necessary. But that morning you have problems. You wake up with those problems, and then you put them out, you kind of give them to God, if you want, no? But you give them to God by just expressing them consciously, being aware of what you are expressing. And you put them there, and then you add responsibility, and then you say, look, I'm responsible for my life, which means I have created this day with all the decisions I made to arrive to this day. And two, I need guidance. I don't know what to do. Give me discrimination. Should I divorce, or should I go to a marriage, marriage counsel? Could be that, I'm just putting an example.
But see, by crystallizing, by making the petition, what it did for me, and even as you're talking, it created an anxiety in me that I did not have before. Even though I hear you and I am trying to give it over and say, give me guidance, but it's stirred up in me, and maybe it's the little lie, like you said, trying to take control back or something.
Yeah, probably.
But it has made my worse.
I understand what you say. Yeah, that, if you need to have faith. You cannot live life without faith, without confidence. Confidence means faith. Confiar with faith, with confidence. You have to be confident in God or in yourself, but you have to be confident. When something creates anxiety in you is precisely because you are not confident, either in God or in yourself. And that is why they say faith is so important, because you really have to develop faith in life, in God, in yourself, you name it. What you cannot live is without faith. What you cannot live is thinking that in any moment everything is going to turn sour and the skies are going to fall on your head, you know, and you are going to be totally massacred and destroyed. That is what creates anxiety, this fear. So, you know, everybody has its idiosyncrasy. So, you know, for example, if you are devoted, say, to Christ, well, you will speak to Christ. And if you are devoted to Krishna, well, you can speak to Krishna. And if you are devoted to Buddha or the Green Tara, you can speak to the Green Tara. But if you are devoted, say, to your husband, you could tell these things to your husband if you really are devoted and you love him deeply and you trust him in the way that you feel confident in him. You are just using an object, an external object, to pour yourself out. Because to pour yourself out, you need an external object. The fact that you know, when you make a petition, that you feel fearful is maybe because you think that you know that I will never get this petition or something like that, or this is going to be terrible, or you know, there is a thought that creates that anxiety. But you know, do it innocently, do it like a child, do it naturally, you know, and you just, you know, and this is very much experimental. If you do it, you will see the results. So, if you say, in the example I was putting, what should I do, you know, with my marriage, say it was the question, it can come in a thought during that meditation, during that tratak, but it can also come during the day through a book or through a conversation you overhear, or through something that happens that you say, aha, that's it. Because life is conscious, consciousness is all around. You just not need to be open, but the life is full of signs. Life is full of signs. You just need to be open. Consciousness doesn't end where your skin ends. It's all consciousness. So, you know, if you have felt this anxiety, you know, instead of making your prayer, trying to get something, you just make your prayer because, you know, you just say, look, I have this problem, I give it to you, and please give me some guidance, but not even expect guidance, if you want, you know, in this attitude which is more like, you know, that's it. And then just do your meditation and live your day. And things come naturally, and it's a personal experience. You will see that suddenly, you know, you have this worry, what do I have to do about this thing? And maybe that day not, but at this next day you wake up with the same worry and you put it forward again. And eventually one day it comes, the answer comes, but very quickly, I will tell you, very, very quickly. You don't need to wait a lot of days, normally. If you do it sincerely and honestly, it comes naturally, and it comes in many different ways. Remember that consciousness is omnipresent, which means that it can speak you from a book, from something that happens, from, you know, a bird singing, or what your cat does when you arrive home. You know, it can, if you are looking at the beauty that surrounds you, you will quickly find it. So, from here to Tuesday, do that prayer if needed, Joanne. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Only when you need it, because you know there's something going on there, if not. And if you need it, simply do it just to express, you know, kind of putting there what is it that it is, not really wanting anything, but just putting it, and then the petition will come naturally. You don't have to think much about it, you know, and normally the petition that comes naturally will be, are you going to go to the Yoga Nidra in White Plains?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Yeah, okay. Well, and you will see in the Yoga Nidra we are going to do this technique that will help you with the prayer. So, you are welcome to come also,
What is that?
in White Plains.
At the
44 Mitchester Avenue in White Plains. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. So, Barbara, have you done your practices yet?
I've been, yes, not every day, but.
Not every day, but
Not every day, yes.
50%, 70%,
Probably 65%.
65%. Good.
yeah,
Any
yeah.
problems?
I'm still struggling with the morning, only
Right.
because I'm not a morning person. I have to get up early to go to work and all that. I try during the day when I get home, just to breathe and lie down and.
Have you done your mantra
Yes.
practice? And the Tratak, you've done it some of the days
Yes,
at least.
yes, yes.
Right.
yes. And I don't have my own mantra. I don't know, so I've been doing the.
Yeah, the preparatory
Right.
mantra, right.
And I'm just trying to find time, not find time, but just to kind of remove myself from the day to day and just relax and clear my head, and that's been very helpful. So, but I see it as a process
Right.
over time. I'm not expecting it to happen, like that.
Good.
I'm expecting to.
Yes, it's just a process, but it's a process nice to live, you know.
Yeah.
The path, it is said, the path, the end of the path, and the truth is just one. I don't know, I'm just paraphrasing. The path, the life, and the what this saying. I am the path, the truth. Okay. The path that you follow is the truth that is life. Or the path of life is the truth. In other words, that path is an unfoldment, and it's very enjoyable, and you can enjoy it one day after another, and it's like growing, like a plant unfolding or a rose unfolding. It's just, and that's the attitude, right? Good.
A lot of what you said has really resonated with me, the action versus the result. And also looking at people and seeing them for who they are, not for how they look or what they're. So I mean, a lot has resonated. I'm taking it all in, and expect to kind of live with it as time goes on. So.
Nice. And you, Barbara?
Got our names.
I find myself doing the mantra throughout the day or when I'm
Good.
walking.
That's good. Yeah.
So yeah, that makes me feel much more relaxed and
Good.
peaceful.
Good.
I did the candle exercise once, and I'm struggling with that. And I don't know if that's because I was getting sick. It was just, I'm having a hard time just looking in that flame for a long period of time. I think you said 3 or 4 minutes.
Well,
I just can't.
you can make it shorter,
I tried.
Remember one thing about meditation. It has to be gentle, effortless. So, if you feel that you are putting too much effort looking at the candle, you look it instead of for 3 minutes, for a minute or whatever the case with you. You just adapt it, gently adapt it. Basically, the technique is, I use an object, a visual object, which it can be a visual external object, the candle, or a visual internal object, the post-Retinian image. So you just switch from one to the other, so you look at the candle. Ideally, and if you have no problem, 3-4 minutes. But if you have some problem, like whatever, so say 45 seconds. You close your eyes. If you look at the candle 45 seconds, the after effect will last less time. Well, and then you look at the point for say another minute and a half. So you will do more cycles, but you do it gently, you do it softly, without forcing yourself. You are just using that object, alternating with the external object and the internal object as a point of reference, so that you can let the rest go. Because you allow yourself that now, I'm not only interested in this object. This is my object, the candle. So I look at the candle, I look at the point, I look at the candle, I look at the point, and in the meantime I let everything go, be it the greatest of thoughts or the most miserable of thoughts. You just let them go, both of them, equally.
Okay. Is there a substitute for the candle? Can I look at a glass of water or, just anything else?
Well, you could do Tratak with a rose, but when you are a little bit more trained in the after image effect. But you can do Tratak. Look, I'll show you. Look, I think I can show you.
So is the after image effect required, or eventually when you get to be in a more advanced state, I'm assuming you don't have to look at a candle to meditate.
Well, because you are using an object in Tratak, in this technique you use an object. So if you look at a flower, when you close your eyes, you will see the post image of the flower. Totally, I will show you. I will show you a little experiment.
Can I just say something?
Sure, go ahead.
When I took this, the first time with Meryl, about the candle, all of us, none of us here said we all had a hard time. Our eyes were tired, it was too much.
It's going to be like a headache.
Right. So, like he said, do it less. And what a guy tells us is look at it with soft eyes. Don't stare at it then. Look to the side, look different ways, and play with it.
That might help.
But no one here has said, which I was shocked that you guys didn't feel exhausted the first time you looked at it. Look, your eyes. Some people's eyes
I think
very
that's what it is.
It takes
But I like that.
Focusing too hard.
Don't
So they
just
say,
say,
look at this side, that's one technique, look around it.
right.
If the expression soft eyes helps you, I don't know. I don't know what he said last time,
It's good to know.
but let's see what he said for the flower.
How you feeling? How you feeling?
A little better. A little more awake. So,
I don't have it here. I think I tried to show you the other day. I don't have it here. So, I cannot show you.
I can Google
It's
it.
in the other computer. I will remind me next day and I will show you. Just a minute.
What is the thing tomorrow night?
I'm sorry.
The thing tomorrow night? Tomorrow
The
night?
event.
What is it?
No, on Wednesday nights when my plans is a meditation.
Is
group.
that at Merrill's?
Yes,
Right.
every Wednesday
Wednesday.
night meditation, but I think because he's here, I haven't been there, she has been.
Right.
He's been doing a different thing every Wednesday, so the
Ah.
next one, tomorrow night, he's doing the yoga.
In yoga, okay.
Right, Gilly? You've been going, I haven't been going.
Yeah, because Meryl just asked him to show us.
What did he do the other nights? Meditate?
Yeah, he just comes to meditate.
Does
with us.
this
He
talk?
doesn't do
Did
it.
he teach? No, just regular
Yeah,
meditation?
he just regular meditation.
Just for like a couple of
But
hours?
the Meryl asked
I
him
haven't
to do
been
it.
there.
Oh, so you don't go Wednesday?
I do.
Okay.
I just missed the past weeks, the second six.
Would you go
So-
Saturdays too? Where else?
I just went in and meditated now.
Unfortunately, I cannot show you, but
Wednesday,
remind me
Wednesday.
because you will see. Whatever you look at, you get a perfect imprint in your brain of what you are looking at, which is exactly like a picture of what you are looking at. And I will show you with a small experiment, and it's very easy to find out next day. So basically, for that respect, you can do Tratak with anything. But a candle is the most appropriate object to start with. And you know, a candle should not be so problematic to look at, no? You know, you just look it,
Yeah, I'll try again.
you know, softly, you just look at the candle gently, softly, you know, you just look, let everything go while you watch the candle for a while. Don't worry too much for how much. And then you close the eyes and you go and search that point, and you use that. You use those cycles as your object of concentration. And that's all. So you try this till next Tuesday, and we will review again. And now it's, remind me your name.
Me?
No.
Linda,
Li-
Linda, we talked
Li-
earlier,
We talked earlier.
and
Yeah, it's true. So you did it and everything.
I
That's
did it right.
good. So we will go straight to the theme of today, which is mind and evolution. We will not have too much time to get into mind. But what I will do is I will try to explain certain concepts that are good to understand, that are good to have some understanding of them. It's part of what the Buddhists would call the correct understanding of things. So one of the things that, for example, is taught, and I'm just putting the example of Buddhism, not that because we are Buddhists, but the example, all traditions more or less teach similar things in different words. But one of the first things that the Buddhists, what they call the preliminary teachings in the Buddhist traditions is, you know, the teaching of impermanence, you know, to teach your students about the impermanence of things, which is basically what we've been looking with the impermanence of the little eye that wakes up in the morning. It's just good for one day. It is the fact that whatever you are worried about, whatever you are striving for, whatever, you are going to end up in a hole 8 feet by 5 feet. And in no time, not even your family knows about you, like you don't know about your family in the 1860s or in the 1800s. I mean, you have no idea. Normally, most of people have no idea of their families 150 years ago, not even their names or anything. So, impermanence, first teaching. The second of the preliminary teachings is the importance of being born a human being. It's not a joke to be born a human being, and it takes a lot of learning to be born a human being. And it also requires the understanding that you are a form of life in evolution. And being a form of life in evolution, you are here to learn and continue evolving. If not, you would have not been born. To understand this is very simple. I mean, the best way to understand it is, imagine you have a string, and you pull that string and you have your parents. Okay? You are here in this world because you were born from your parents. So we can say, to a certain extent, that you are a product of love, because your parents had to be loving with each other so that you could be born. Could be more lustful or more spiritual, but was loving. You know, they wanted to join. So you are a product of love, as your parents were a product of love, as the parents of your parents were a product of love. So love is in the equation. How is this song? Love is in the air.
Love is all around us, right.
Love is in the air. And you have inherited from your parents not only your genes, your DNA, but also language, a concept of life, patterns of behavior, you know, a whole psychological package of information through language, through the process of education, and children really absorb completely what the parents give them. And the same happened with your parents. So your parents had parents, and the same process was there with your parents. So imagine you have a string. This is a question that all civilizations have asked themselves, which is, if you have a string and you pull off the string and you have your parents, you pull the string, you have the parents of your parents, you pull the string, you have the parents of your parents of your parents. So where does that string finish? What do you mean nowhere? You know, if you keep pulling, what, it goes eternally?
Endless.
Endless, so you pull and your parents. You know, every 32 pulls, you go back. If you calculate 35 years per generation, every 32 pulls of that string, you go back 1,000 years. You are with your family in 1,000 years. Imagine in your imagination that you have all the information, you have the mind of God, and you know everything. So you pull, because now you pull and you lose track very quickly. But imagine you had all the information, i.e. the mind of God that have all the details, the super God computer, and you pull, you have all the details. You pull, every 32 pulls, you are with your family in the year 1000. Pull 32 times again with your family in the year 1. 32 pulls again with your family in the year minus 1000 years. And so on and so forth. And you continue pulling that string. Where does it end?
In space.
In space. Well, some people, you know, all traditions, you know, depending on the place, for some people ended in Adam and Eve. They didn't have better answers 6,000 years ago. Other people like Indians in the Amazon would end in a tortoise, where the first parents, well, it's the founding fathers, it's the concept of the founding fathers. Everybody asked, who were the first parents? Who were the founding fathers? Right. So, you are here, that's you. And this is the string. And you start pulling your string, you know, and you pull the string, and imagine minus 1,000, minus 2,000, minus 3,000, minus 4,000, minus 5,000 every 32 pulls. And it's your family. So, you know, these people were the parents of the parents of the parents of the parents, and they transmitted to the parents, which are your family, things, language, patterns, that went all the way, some of them, some not. So, you know, it's a very close relationship. So imagine, you know, you go to year minus 5,000, that's about it, that we know things in history, you know, minus 5,000, minus 6,000, then we lose track. But we know that Homo sapiens sapiens, i.e. our species, was in this planet Earth for at least 250,000 years. Because there are bones, and you know, there are rests, we know that. There is scientific evidence. So you have, imagine, 250,000 years to keep pulling that string, and in your family, so you pull that string and you are, say, in minus 200,000 years with your family. Well, in those people, whomever they were, your family, minus 200,000 years ago, your genes are there. So if I take 1% of this guy, and 0.5 of this, and 0.03 of this, I could build your body, because you have not changed the species. So there are no new genes. You follow? So you know it's your family, and you know we could build a body like yours, then we are in the same species. Everything is there still. So imagine you continue pulling of that string and you arrive, you know, to the first human beings. The first human beings, you know, or the very first. Your cousin is Neanderthalis, for example, you know, and your other cousin, in the side of your father, he is Homo erectus of some description. You know, I mean, there has to be a transition. You follow me? But so if you continue pulling, because parents, they are always parents, unless you get to Adam and Eve and are God doing out of clay people, you continue pulling and they are always parents. That for sure. So if you continue pulling, where do you arrive? You know, you do the evolution path backwards. You imagine? So you go, you know, then you go back, Neanderthal, Homo erectus, the first apes, a rat, a reptile of some description, an amphibia, a fish, a cell. But the cell, where the cell comes from? Will come from molecules that come from stars, that come from the Big Bang. So if you pull this string, where are you coming from? You are coming from something that started, according to science today, 13.7 times 10 to the 9 years ago. Plus minus 5%, according to scientific measures, which means more or less plus minus 5%. So this is the beginning, the alpha, and this is the end, the omega, and this is a process of learning. This is the process of evolution, the process of experience, and the process of learning. For example, your family here, you know, imagine 249,000 years ago, on the verge with the first human beings being around, out of, you know, some sort of blending between Homo erectus or this or that, you know, the first human beings, your family, imagine it is you, you know, if your parents never told you that the moon is the moon, because, you know, we look at the moon, but our parents have told, oh, the moon, you know, it's like this, like that, no? But you imagine your parents, they don't yet have a very elaborate language, and they cannot, their language is very simple, and things like that. Your universe, your concept of the world you live in probably is the cave you live, and the surrounding areas, and the hunters, and if you are a boy you want to be a hunter, and if you are whatever, you know, I'm just guessing, but imagine you are there. And you look at the moon, you see the same moon with the same eyes, the same sensation, the same colors. It's your species. It's an Homo sapiens sapiens. But nobody told you what is the moon. So you look at the moon and you might start wondering about the moon. And you can see that it grows and that it decreases, and you might be curious, and then you might be putting you know, like sticks, you know, every time it grows, and then you may be seeing that they are the same, and you may tell this to your children. And then your children, they already know that, but they start doing this and that, and they tell that to their children. And they tell that to their children. And so on and so forth, till it arrives to you. So you are the result of a very long process of evolution. And the process of evolution is the process by which you learn, like, you know, the ancient Eastern people would say, lifetime after lifetime, you know, through different experiences, you keep learning things, learning things, learning things, till you reach to the point where you are. And that is what the Buddhists call karma. And karma is just that whatever action creates a reaction, and thus it creates information, and this information is the process of evolution. You could look at the process of evolution like gaining information of the universe. For example, imagine an amoeba, the first amoeba, you know, the first eukaryotic cell. It was confronted, say, to an acid environment. It learned how to survive in that acid environment. I'm speaking metaphorically, wrote that information in its DNA code and gave that information to the next generation. That was confronted to this other problem, learned how to survive to that problem, and passed the information to the next generation. And so on and so forth, generation after generation, you are creating information through codifying DNA. DNA codifies 22 amino acids, you know, with which you put the proteins together. So you can say that with these 22 amino acids, you can do all existing proteins and all new proteins to be created. So you can build all the bodies existing and all the bodies to exist. And the thing is that when you arrive to the human stage, then information starts being transmitted not only through DNA, but through language, which is the same, is a system to codify information, but more subtle. Instead of codifying 22 amino acids, we codify 22 letters, or 24, or whatever the language, 20-something. a couple dozen letters. Combining them, you could write all the books written and all the books to be written. It's just a matter how you combine them. So, with this code of information, we start sharing information to our next generation in a more effective, subtle, and mutable way. So mutations can happen, it's less dense. A gene is a gene, it's in the body. You need to change the species to change a gene. But from the moment you use language to transfer evolution, immediately speeds up, because you have a much better system to transfer information, which is language, which is where we are. So imagine, so that you understand this, imagine, you know, that you do this average primitive man, no? Imagine your family, so you pull the string and you arrive to your family 250,000 years ago. Direct family. You know, your parents, of the parents, of the parents, of the parents, of your parents, of your parents. And imagine your vision of the world then. Imagine that, you know, in the same way that you woke up at 14 years old and your universe was school boys and school girls and who went with whom, and you know, imagine that in the same way that you wake up to different realities, so imagine you wake up, that consciousness, the consciousness that woke up at 14 and saw this reality and wakes up at 30 and sees and becomes conscious of this other reality, memory, this memory box. You follow me what I'm trying to say? And the consciousness that becomes aware of this other reality when you are 40, which is a different reality, is the same consciousness. The reality is different. The universe, the concept of the universe is different, but the consciousness that becomes aware of that concept is the same consciousness. You are still the same thing, becoming aware of different facets, different things. Is understood? You can follow? So imagine this very same consciousness, instead of in one lifetime, see it throughout lifetimes. So imagine that consciousness becoming aware of the concept of life, of universe, of this family of yours, that doesn't even know that the moon is the moon, because nobody told him yet, and that uses a very limited language, still some words, a lot of gestures, but the first words, and then he lives a life and he learns how to count the moon and this, that, so he has learned that has passed to the next generation. So with that learned, he confronts another reality and he lives that reality, he learns new things about the sun, about this, about that, about the beasts, about the hunting, and he passes that information to the next generation. And one lifetime, after lifetime, after lifetime, through experience and the learning that comes from that experience, has gone all the way to you. You are what you are because all those people learned what they learned and transferred that information to the next generation. So to arrive where you are, you need such a lot of things going on. So being born as a human being, it's important because it's not easy. It takes 13.7 times to 10 to the 9th years of experience after experience after experience, because everything starts in the Big Bang. The spiritual traditions consider that the beginning is God. And you know, you can call the beginning the Alpha. You can call the beginning the Big Bang. You can call the beginning the Father. You can call the beginning the Brahman. You can call the beginning whatever you want to call it. But when you pull this string, you arrive to the beginning. And who can know the beginning?
God.
Who knows, I mean, of this manifestation in where we live? Who knows the Big Bang? We know the Big Bang. I mean, why are we talking? Why can I talk about the Big Bang? Because we know it, you know, we have scientists, they have looked with their telescopes, you know, we know that up to now, which doesn't mean that it's the total truth, you know. Your family in year 1000, in their concept of what this world is, they would think in a flat earth that ended in the Atlantic Ocean, and in a celestial, how do you say, dome, with this God up there taking note of what you are with, you know, with witches and devils and all, and that would be the reality, and they would think that was, and they would live according to that concept of reality. And we look at that concept of reality today and we say, right or wrong? Well, wait for 1000 years and let them look at us without actual concepts of reality, they probably will think the same. But they are the best concepts we have today. So we use them because it is what we have today. It is as far as we have reached. And you know, we are where we are, and we are forms of life in evolution. And according to what we know, after all these many years of learning, everything started at the beginning, in the Big Bang, according to science. And who knows the Big Bang? The Big Bang is known by the human being. So the Big Bang doesn't know himself. He needs the human being, which is a product of the Big Bang, is the end product of the Big Bang, started a process that ends up in you. And you know the Big Bang happened. That is why in Christianity is said that no one knows the Father but through the Son, because you are the Son. You cannot know the Father but through the Son. So in the yogic traditions, they say the Brahman and the Atman, the Son is the Atman, is the same, because the Atman is the seed of Brahman after all these experiences that creates the mind, because the mind is all that information created through all these experiences that allows you to know the Father, to know Brahman, to know that you are the product of divinity, which according to many spiritual traditions is the purpose of life. To realize that you are one with your beloved, that you are one with your Creator. Communion, what it's called communion in the Christian tradition, and I believe it is called similarly in the Jewish tradition. You know, the mystics of every tradition will always speak you about the realization that you are one with the Creator somehow, or with the Manifestor. In the Eastern traditions, and the way we teach evolution or manifestation is not the concept of the Creator, like a will, you know, the God Creator, like a will that says, I'm going to create a universe, where there is a thought process. You know, it's like there is a God, which is the Creator, and says, I'm going to create the universe in 7 days, you know, like more the Semitic traditions. In the Eastern traditions, it's a manifestor, which nature is to manifest. In the same way that the nature of fire is giving off heat, or the nature of a rose is giving off fragrance. So there is no will involved. It's just a natural manifestation. So manifestation, the manifestor, its nature is to manifest. So the manifestor would be Brahman, and the manifestation, this universe. And the information that this manifestation contains, like the totality of the experiences gained in the totality of this space-time universe in which we live, would be what could be regarded the universal mind or the personal God, which its best expression in this planet Earth is any human being. So this is the concept of evolution, and it is important to speak about this concept because it is important that you realize that it is not a joke having a lifetime, that you are here to learn, that you are here because before you many family of yours have gone through many experiences of all different kinds, and these experiences they have been transmitting these experiences through language to their children, and all that wealth of growth, you are the final representation of that big path. And this is just taking evolution as we understand it today. The Eastern traditions speak about the reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation, which is very misunderstood. Because people think that the little I with what you identify is what reincarnates. But the little I doesn't reincarnate, like your body. You know, your body will rot in a hole or be burned in a fire, but it does not come together again. And the same thing applies to your little I, your identity, your concept of yourself. The question is, what is it that is reincarnating? What is that it, if it exists, that reincarnates? A way to see this that I have found easy to make people realize this thing is the following. Imagine you do an average every 4 generations, you know? Let's start with the primitive man here. So you make your average primitive man. Which means, imagine you had all the information that you could pull the string. I mean, you don't have the information, but the information is there somewhere. So imagine you had all the information, you could pull the string and you know exactly this, married with this, married that, and you can go all the way down till the beginning of the universe. And imagine you take this, your family, and you get your family in this primitive stage and you make the average. And you make, you know, a compensated average, which means you really take into consideration in the same way that you can take into consideration that all the genes you have today are there in your family. So if you make an average, you can say, I'll take 1% of this guy and his concepts because I have 1% of him in my DNA and so on and so forth. So imagine you have all the information. You really do artificial intelligence, well-managed, average cosmovision of that person, of that family of yours, and the average experience, the average life that he had. You imagine that in your mind? Okay. So imagine that you start doing averages every 4 generations, say, to make it easy, no? So you start making averages, and you get this guy, which is you, because as you are taking, you know, as you are considering your mixture of genes, you do these averages, which is a representation of you, but with different sets of information. So you have this set of information, you live these experiences, you increase your set of information, you live these experiences, you increase your set of information, and you keep having experiences till you arrive to where you are. The question is, who is the I that incarnates, you know, because people, when they speak about reincarnation, I always tell this because it is what happens. Has anybody told you about the previous incarnations before, you know, someone that believes in these things? Has anybody ever told you about that? I ask you. Because people, when they tell you about reincarnation, some people that say, oh yeah, I've been to this regression therapy, and I am a reincarnate, they are always reincarnate of important people. Mm-hmm. I'm a reincarnate of the soldier that helped Jesus with the cross. Or I am a reincarnate of Mary Magdalene, or of Moses, or of, you name it, or of the... Nobody tells you I'm a reincarnate of a Sumerian pedophile, because you know it's kind of, because it's the I that thinks that gets reincarnated. The I doesn't get reincarnated, because you are this I, you know, and this is the Queen of England. You are the reincarnate. You were the Queen of England, okay. And this is the Roman soldier that helped with the cross, okay, the Roman soldier. And this is the Sumerian pedophile. Now the question is, you say, I was the Queen Elizabeth. No, but the Roman soldier can say, no, the Roman soldier has become Queen Elizabeth and now I am you, but the I is the Roman soldier. But then the Sumerian pedophile can tell you exactly the same, let alone the ape that can tell you, no, the I is me, or the primitive man, or the fish, or you name it. You do the evolutionary path all the way back. So who is the I that is reincarnated? Who is the first thing that starts creating all this? You are in reality a reincarnation of God, which was never born and will never die. And that's why in reality spiritual traditions teach that death doesn't exist. It doesn't refer to the death of your body or the death of your little I, because your little I dies every night, every day. And your body will definitely, go back to its components and serve to create new bodies. But what creates all this pure consciousness, is what incarnates from the beginning. This is the I that incarnates. So this I, which is the consciousness that you have inside, acquires experience, and all this process is a process of acquiring experience. When the first hydrogen atoms were pressed together and created helium atoms, and then they were pressed together to get all that is experience, and then different atoms come together to create molecules, and molecules come together to create bacteria, and bacteria come together to create a cell, that come together to create some sort of thing, and then fish, and like that, All these experiences create this path. And consciousness, consciousness is what becomes aware of it. Because there is consciousness all around. Consciousness is a quality of nature. And consciousness expressed in its highest form in this planet is a human being. That's why a human being is the best representation of divinity in this planet, at least. Which is the planet where we live and that we know. But there are many planets, like this planet, like any scientist can today confirm you. So evolution is this thing, and you are there in this lifetime, and you are here in the lifetime of one day, and it's important to have the two dimensions. The short dimension, the life of one day, and the big dimension. I'm a product of that divinity going through 13.7 to 10 to the 9 years of experiences to be able to recognize divinity today, all around me. And it's 9, so questions.
So, what it has to do with our meditation, that evolution?
Well, it's
is
just,
about connection.
there are two, within what is the spiritual path, if you want, going, for example, to the Buddhist approach, which is very concrete, very methodical, very scientific, you could say. They speak about correct action, what we are learning to do with actions, correct thought, what we will be learning to do with thought, correct communication, which is a variance of thought, because communication is a verbally expressed thought, correct concentration, which are the techniques we are learning that use a concentration object, correct mindfulness, which means being aware of yourself during the day, from the moment you wake up, of your thoughts, of your emotions, of the things you are doing, of the place where your feet are being placed, and making your feet and the place they are placed and what is surrounding you, the basis of your reality at that very moment. That's correct mindfulness. Correct feelings would be compassion, and there is one thing which is called correct understanding, which means you have to have an understanding of life. So you have to, for example, accept your circumstances. Now, to accept your circumstances, you have to do it knowledgeably. You have to understand that your circumstances are what they are, because in this learning process you have reached where you have reached. And you might, if you have been born, in a family, say that your parents taught you, I'm going to put an extreme example, no? Your parents taught you that blowing yourself up in a bus with other people around, particularly youth, will take you to screw juvenile virgins and drink wine, that you have not done up to now. You have a piece of information that is bad. So if you inherit that piece of information that is bad, you will be subjected to circumstances that are going to challenge that piece of information, because that piece of information will be dropped eventually, like it was dropped, the piece of information that the earth is flat. Through experience, that piece of information that was taken to be true generations ago is, discarded already. So, depending on where you are, your lineage will be different, and the things that have to be learned and the information that is good and is bad in each case will be different, and thus it will create different circumstances that are going to challenge, because evolution is how it works. If you have a piece of information that is bad, reality is going to challenge it, and and if you continue maintaining that piece of information, you will again be confronted to a similar situation again and again and again. And that's why people say, why every time happens me the same? Because you have not just discarded the piece of information that you are believing to be true as untrue. So this is just correct understanding, so that you think about things that this is obvious. I'm not saying nothing that is not obvious. That there are always parents, yes. That this is a process of learning, you just need to look at it. That you are the product of that learning, you just need to look at it. If you have that understanding, you will start maybe feeling grateful for your ancestors. Not only your parents, but everything that goes before. You will start feeling connected to what started this all, which is this Father or Brahman or Big Bang, But it is more poetical to call it God, and will excite your heart more, because it is very difficult to be devoted to an equation, we can say that this is E equals mc squared. Now, devote yourself to that. You have to be a mathematician at least. So for normal people like us, it's no good. But say the same thing poetically, and I will tell you how the Hindus tell this. At the beginning, the Hindus consider a similar universe like the physics today. Their calendar has, in fact, more years. It is 4.3 or 5, I think it is, 10 to the 9th. It's in the margin of error of science, but more years. And they say at the beginning there were two opposing forces. Sattvas, the forces of light and wisdom, and Tamas, the forces of darkness and inertia. And they interacted with each other and they created action. And through this interaction and the action that was created, the action is rajas, all this universe came about. And all this universe has come about through the working of the three gunas, which is sattvas, which is light, tamas, wisdom, tamas, which is darkness, inertia, and rajas, which is action, movement, action, which is the result of the interaction between light and darkness. Okay. Sattvas, light, c squared, speed of light. Tamas, darkness, inertia, mass, no light, has inertia, tamas. And the interaction between these two produces energy, action. So, explain the same thing poetically. How the ancient Hindus had this ability of explaining things that we explain today mathematically and scientifically, but in poetical terms are no different, but from the result of this interaction of forces, you came about, which is the same thing that the Eastern philosophies explain. More questions?
How did they know that?
You know Carl Sagan in one of these Cosmos episodes, you know Carl Sagan, this asks himself, how did they came with these things? Where did they get this number, for example? Because it's in the margin of error of what we think. But he says in the chapter, like, you know, jokingly, was it chance? Was it by chance? Like saying, look, sounds that it was not by chance. Whatever it is, we don't know. We really don't know. Some people say that there was an older civilization that was destroyed and that had a lot of knowledge and that passed it to this, you know, could be that, you know. In one of the chapters of this Carl Sagan, he speaks about this book, which is a book that we know it existed because it is referenced in Plato or in Aristotle. You know, they reference this book, and this book, it was a book that was in the Library of Alexandria, and was one of the books that was burned when they burned the library. I don't know if you know the history of the Library of Alexandria, but the king there, or the chief of that place, that was a place where ships came from every place, you know, it was a big trading center. In order to get into the city and get your things out and trade, you had to bring a book, a written book from wherever you came. So, and as they had boats coming from every place, they had books from every place in every language, and it was kind of the Google of those times, no? And, you know, it was burned. But there was this book that was the history of humanity since 400,000 years ago to the great, how do you call this rain that is in the Bible, the
flood?
The flood, to the flood, and was the history, no? And that's where it's named the Atlantida and all these things that Plato and Aristotle reference when they speak about the Atlantida. Plato speaks about the Atlantida, he references this book from the Library of Alexandria. And in this chapter, Carl Sagan says, what I would give to get that book in my hands, you know, like, what the hell was written in that book, you know, the history of humanity 400,000 years ago to the Great Flood. You know, what was in their minds, or in the minds of the people then, that we really don't know because we've lost track of the information, you know. Scientists say that if there was an older civilization, we should have seen evidence, and there is no evidence of that, and that's a serious argument, no? Unless the flood was so great that left no fucking evidence at all, even of the existence. I really don't know. But whatever it is, you know, evolution is also like the stock exchange, you know. You go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. At the end you go up, but you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. So we could be in a backward step or in a forward, you never know. More questions? Okay, so do your practices till Tuesday, no, today's Tuesday, till Thursday. On Thursday, I am going to dedicate, we will start with a short meditation. I will not review the practices unless you have a given problem, and then you can tell me. And I'll start directly with a very important thing, which is understand how our mind works. Because when you understand how something works, you acquire power over it. You know, if you understand how the electromagnetic field works, and you know the Maxwell equations, you can do a radio or a mobile phone or a TV. So when you understand what something works, your creative ability, your consciousness can handle that. It's very important to understand how your mind works. So it will be concepts, but concepts that we will apply practically in what we are going to do with our thoughts, because the thoughts are the most troublesome part of our day. Actions, you know, it's very easy to finally learn. This morning I spent a lot of time explaining mindful action and action without seeking for the result. So you can look at the tape, it will be in the classroom thing. But action is easy. Love comes by itself and happens by itself, but thoughts is the most troublesome and arid part of this game. So we will dedicate all Thursday and maybe next Tuesday in learning about the mind and learning practical things to apply in our day-to-day life to our thoughts. And shall we do your iPad now?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Yeah, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Okay.
Is there only 1 second?
So, this is